Hey, how many of you guys are you're a part of a family where there's more than one kid in your family? Anybody? More than one. All right. Okay. How many of you guys are your parents' favorite? You're the favorite? You're the favorite. Angela, are you really the favorite? Yeah, I heard that, Angela, I heard that you were the hard one to raise. Yeah. Okay. That would make her the favorite, probably. All right, that's good. Yeah, I grew up with, I had three siblings, and I don't think I was the favorite. I think my youngest sister was the favorite. I was a favorite for the little while, like when you're born, and your parents think, oh, here's the promise of the chosen one right here, But 2 weeks later, no, not the favorite. All right, so that's the way it works. Well, we're going to talk about a favorite today in Scripture. Joseph was one of many brothers, and a couple sisters, but there were over a dozen in the family, right? I asked the question in the first service, and there's one person that had what was it? Is it 18 people, 18 kids in their family? And she was the favorite. Can you believe that? To be the favorite, and then all the rest of the kids. Now, how many are not the favorite in your family? You're not the favorite? Okay, yeah. Me. So we're going to talk both sides today, all right? We're going to talk about what is it like to be the favorite, and what is it like to be not the favorite? And how do we respond? How do we react to one another as siblings, right? Well, here's the story. If you haven't heard it before, you're probably going to be pretty taken back by this story. This is the story of Jacob. We know who Jacob is. And he lives in the land where his father had stayed, in the land of Canaan. And it says, this is the account of Jacob's family line. Joseph, now, it starts out with Joseph to describe his whole family. Now, Joseph was into the line. He was the youngest. Now, the youngest tends to be the favorite of your parents. It's like last shot, they're so cute. That's all they can remember, the cute kids at the last, right? So it says here, Joseph was a young man. He was 17, and he was tending the flocks with his brothers. And he goes out there, and he sees his brothers aren't doing such a hot job, shepherding. And so he takes a bad report back to his dad. Your sons are not doing what they should be doing. So he tattles on them, all right? He tattles on them. And so then it goes on, it says, now Israel, that's Jacob, his name was changed to Israel. He loved Joseph more than any of his other sons. Can you believe the Bible actually says that? That Joseph was the favorite, and his dad loved him more than any of the other sons. So what does he do? Here's what he does. He makes him this amazing ornate robe. Okay, they call it, you heard of the coat of many colors? Well, that was Joseph's coat. It was like this, off the charts, like so cool looking robe. It probably had his name monogrammed on the front, Joseph. And so anyway, he makes him this ornate robe, it says. And when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him. It says they hated him, and not only hated him, it says they couldn't say one kind word to him. Whoa. Little bit of animosity in the family, right? Okay, you're the favorite. We don't like you. We don't like you, favorite, right? And so here's what's going on. So, here's the deal. We're going to look at both sides. What's it like to be the favorite, and what's it like to not be the favorite? How do you respond to one another? Well, one of the first warnings for us is this. If you are the favorite, now, it's not just the favorite in the family. We can expand this a little bit. Maybe you're the favorite at work. Maybe you're the favorite in school. Anybody here a teacher's pet? Yeah, okay. You guys sucking up to the teacher, taking apples, being nicey nice, all that stuff, yeah. Right? Sometimes you're the teacher's pet. Sometimes you have some measure of success. Something good happened to you. Maybe it's in the athletic realm. Maybe it's in the workplace. Maybe, you know, it's in the family. Maybe you have some natural talent or ability that's recognized by others pretty quickly, pretty easily. Maybe you just got this great personality and people are drawn to you and you go, whoa, you know, it's kind of cool to be popular, right? But, you know, some of these things happen to us and they may be because we worked hard and all that. Others, it's just something that you were gifted with, you were blessed by God with. And so we need to, I think, be aware that when good things happen or when we do something that's recognized by others, when people applaud us and say, good on you, you need to be aware that don't be proud. Don't soak it up and go, oh, hey, I'm something special, right? I mean, some people do that, right? They do that. And so we need to be aware of soaking up the attention. But on the other hand, if someone does have a measure of success, they do something and somebody recognizes them for, we should not what? We should not kind of get in their face and say, oh, you think you're something hot, you're something special. We need to be aware that don't be jealous of other people when something goes good for them or God has blessed them in a certain way, right? I mean, the Bible has a lot to say about this. In Psalm 12:3 it says, may the Lord silence all the flattering lips and every boastful tongue. In other words, there are some people that they give flattery to other people, you know, oh, you're so good, but they do it for their own benefit, you know, trying to get on their good side. But there are others who kind of, you know, strut their own stuff. Well, I'm good at this, I'm good at that, I did this, I did that. And so the Bible says, watch out for both of those. Proverbs 27:2 says this, let someone else praise you, not your own mouth, an outsider, not your own lips. In other words, don't be tooting your own horn. If you're good, other people will talk about it, and that'll be fine. Another one here, 1 Corinthians 1:31 says, therefore, as it's written, let the one who boasts, boast in the Lord, right? Let the one who boasts, boast in the Lord. In other words, if you are going to say anything good about anybody or anything, maybe it's best to start with the one who created you and say, you know what, God is the one who made me and He gave me this talent, He gave me this ability, so, you know, if you're going to thank me for something good that I did or some success I've had, you better direct your thanks to the one who made me. That's a good idea. That's what Scripture says. We mentioned the other one that in Proverbs 16:18, pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. If you are too stuck on yourself or too much about putting yourself forward, the Bible says, watch out, watch out. Now, everybody wants to succeed, right? Everybody wants to be recognized for what they do that's right, that's good, or whatever. But we have to understand that sometimes when that happens, somebody else is left out. If you take first place, maybe somebody took second. Somebody took third. Somebody took last. And so we need to be aware of the fact that if we have some success, others may, you know, be resentful or hurt if they don't have that success. And we can be on either side of the coin, right? But the Bible has some interesting things to say about how do you deal then with the situation when something good does happen to somebody and maybe it doesn't happen to somebody else. Well, the Bible says here, rejoice with those who rejoice. The other side of that coin is, and weep with those who weep. Right? So we need to be sensitive on both sides. When something good happens to somebody, hey, let's be happy for them and happy with them. And maybe they'll include us in the celebration, right? Especially if they're directing the glory to God. But if you're last place instead of first, maybe you need to be sensitive and say, hey, I'm so sorry. You know? Let's commiserate. Let's talk about this. Let's cry together. And so that's good advice, I think. So be aware of soaking up attention, but don't be jealous of those who get it. Instead, let's rejoice together, or let's mourn together. Right? Now, the story goes on. Here, Joseph, he has this great-looking coat. Okay, his dad gave him that is a symbol that he's the favorite. And then he has this dream. He has this dream. Verse 5 says this, Joseph has a dream. And when he told his brothers, they hated him even more. Here's the dream. He said to them, listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field, and when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, and your sheaves gathered around mine, and all bowed down to it. Someone should have told Joseph, it's like, dude, you just don't lay this out here to guys who already hate you. All right? It's like, hey guys, guess what? You think I'm special now? Just wait. I'm in the middle and you're all bowing down to me. And if that wasn't enough, right? Okay, here the brothers respond. They say, do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us? And it says they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. Then to top it off, the Bible says he had another dream. He has another dream. And this time, what is it? He says, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars all bowed down to me. And when he told his father, as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him. He says, what is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down on the ground before you? And so his brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. In other words, his father had an open mind. But still he rebuked him. He says, kid, don't be throwing this stuff out here. Your brothers hate you as it is, and here you're just pouring it on. You're just pouring it on. Now, I know sometimes from a few times from experience that when God gives you a vision, maybe to do something or an idea, and you're the leader of a group, and sometimes people don't like ideas, especially if it means change. Okay? God gives you a vision that others don't like or they don't understand. Sometimes it always doesn't go well for the visionary person. Sometimes certain people are just maybe more open to dreaming or to having a vision, to thinking outside the box, right? But what's interesting, the Bible addresses this issue of the fact that there needs to be dreamers in your midst. There needs to be people who have vision. And in Acts 2, verse 17, it says this. God says, in the last days, I'm going to pour out my Spirit on all people. And your sons and your daughters are going to prophesy. Your young men are going to see visions. And your old men are going to dream dreams. Now, I don't know what that old men are dreaming dreams is about. Maybe that's because they just take more naps. Okay? But what's interesting about this passage in Scripture is this. It was written in a time period when young people, they weren't put forward as the leaders. Okay? If you were a child, a son, a daughter, a young person, and you have a vision, you have a dream, and you put it out there, people are kind of skeptical. They're saying, these kids, they don't know anything. They're young. They haven't been around the block. They don't have any experience. And so the leaders of the day were older people. They were the ones who were wise, that they had some experience. And so this passage of Scripture is radical. It's saying, you know what's going to happen? The tables are going to be turned, and the people who are in charge now, they're going to be young people who step in, and they're going to say, I've got this idea, I've got this vision from God that we should do this or we should do that. And the old people are going to be shocked. They might even say, who are you to be speaking into this moment in time? I mean, you're not in charge. You're a young person. Wow. Now, what is the response when somebody comes and has this kind of out-of-the-box idea, this new vision, this dream that God lays on their heart? Whether it's to be a different kind of person, maybe when you accept Christ as your Savior and your sins are forgiven, you have this dream that God gives you to be a different kind of person. I'm going to give up this and I'm going to start doing this. And your friends, they don't see that. They go like, whoa, I don't see how that's ever going to happen to you, buddy. Right? And God says, no, this is what I want for you. Well, there are different ways that people react when somebody has a dream or has a vision. I'll give you an illustration from Acts. The Apostle Paul, he had this massive turnaround in his life where he was persecuting Christians, and then God got a hold of him, and he had this vision from God. And it changed and radically shifted his way of living so that he became a missionary, actually telling people about the good news of Jesus, right? And so he then goes to the city, he goes to Athens, which was this major metropolitan center, and he's there and he's talking about Jesus to people. And it says that he went to the synagogues and he went to the marketplaces to reason with people. And these philosophers were showing up because they loved to, just talk shop and talk ideas and stuff back in the day. And so a group of these people, philosophers, they came to debate with Paul. And some of them asked him, what is this blabber you're trying to say? I mean, what is this? It's just gobbledygook you're talking about here. And some of them said, I think he's talking about some foreign gods or something. And they said this because Paul was preaching the good news about Jesus and the resurrection from the dead. And then they took him and they brought him to a meeting at the Areopagus, where all the wise people of the day kind of hung out and traded stories and talked philosophy and theology and stuff like that. And they said this, may we know what this new teaching is that you are presenting. You're bringing some strange ideas to our ears, and we'd like to know more about what they mean. See, that's the first group of people. When you introduce a new idea to a group or some situation that you're in, and you say, I got this idea from God that we should be doing this. Some people immediately say, well, tell me more. I'm interested. I want to know what God is speaking into your life. I'm open. I want to hear more, right? That's one group. But then there's another group that comes up. And it says when they heard about the resurrection of the dead, some of them sneered. Okay? In other words, you introduce a new idea and people are going like, that is so lame. I mean, how dumb can you be to even think that way, right? Sometimes, you introduce a new idea and people go like, not going to work. Never in a million years. I mean, just right out of the chute, they don't even give you the time of day. They don't even want to think with you. They don't want to dialogue with you. They just want to shut you down, right? So some people sneer. But others said, we want to hear you again on this subject. Then in verse 34 it says, and some people even became followers of Paul, and they believed. And what did they believe? They believed that Jesus was God in human flesh, that he forgave them of their sins. So you've got the three groups. Some who want to hear more, some who say, no way, and some who say, I'm in. I'm behind this, 110%. Let's go, right? Now, it's still that way today. When new ideas come down the chute, some want to know more, some sneer, and some, they want to buy in immediately. They want to get involved, right? So I think what we need to understand is we need to be aware of how we share ideas. Joseph didn't really think this thing through, I think, thoroughly, right? Maybe there was another way he could have introduced it, put it in fortune cookies and had him open it. I don't know how to do it, but how are you going to share your idea in a way that's not offensive to some people? That is kind, that is genuine, but you're opening this in a way that maybe is a little more gentle, right? But on the other hand, when somebody does have an idea, when somebody does have a vision, let's not be too quick to shut them down. Let's not be too quick to throw a wet blanket on their dream, right? Okay? Now how does this whole thing play out? Well, here's the end of the story. His brothers went to graze their father's flocks at a place called Shechem, near Israel, and so here the dad of the bunch, he tells Joseph, hey, go out and see your brothers, tell them and give them a greeting and see how things are going, and then come back and report to me. Okay? So while Joseph is on his way, in the meantime, back at the ranch where they're doing the sheep herding thing, his brothers, you know what they're doing? They are plotting to kill him. Okay? They're saying, let's get rid of this dreamer, all right? And so in verse 18 of Genesis 37, it says, they plotted to kill him. They said, hey, look, here comes the dreamer, they said to each other. Let's kill him. Let's throw him into one of these cisterns, which is a big open well, basically, that gathered water. And they said, let's throw him into one of these cisterns, and let's tell our dad that a ferocious animal ate him. Right? Guy's toast. He's history. Now, when Reuben, the oldest brother, he heard them saying this, he tries to rescue Joseph from this scenario. And he says, let's not take his life. Let's just throw him in a cistern here. Let's throw him in there and not lay a hand on him. And then Reuben said this because he said he wanted to rescue, well, he didn't tell him, he said to himself, I'm going to rescue, I'm going to come back when they all leave, and I'll rescue Joseph and take him home. Okay? So Reuben exits the scene there, and then as the rest of them sit down to eat their meal, they look up and they see a caravan of Ishmaelites coming. Now, in the meantime, what do? They grabbed Joseph, they took off his coat, and they threw him in the well. And so there was no water in the well, right? And so then Judah, another one of the brothers, says to his brothers, hey, what are we going to gain if we kill our brother and cover it up? Let's do this. He's our flesh and blood after all, so let's not kill him, but let's sell him to these guys. You know, they don't want to kill him, let's make a little money off of him in the meantime, right? And so they pull him out of the well, and they sell him for 20 shekels of silver to these caravan guys that are going down to Egypt. Now, 20 shekels of silver is the same amount of money that Judas sold out Jesus for. 20 pieces of silver, right? So Joseph is kind of a mirror image of Jesus, if you will. Okay? That's kind of what the scripture is trying to impress upon us. Now, what's also interesting about this 20 shekels of silver, during the time that they were selling people into slavery like this, 20 shekels of silver, you know what kind of slave it bought? A handicapped slave. In other words, they thought that Joseph wasn't worth much at all. Now, I don't know, maybe he broke his legs when he fell into the cistern. I don't know, right? But here they're saying, hey, our brother is handicapped. Maybe they were talking about, the guy, you know, he's a dreamer, he's a visionary, he's not worth anything. They said, well, we'll give you 20 shekels of silver for the kid, you know. But what they were saying is, this guy's worthless. Well, okay, they sell him to these Ishmaelites, right? And then what do? They take Joseph's robe, they dip it in animal's blood. They killed an animal, and they put blood all over it. And they take it back to their father, and they said, we found this in the wilderness. Examine it to see if it's your son's robe. And of course, you know, Jacob, Israel, he recognized it immediately, and he said, this is my son's robe. Some ferocious animal must have devoured him. And so he goes into this deep, deep depression. He tears his clothes, he puts on sackcloth, he mourns for his son for many days. And then all the sons and daughters come and try and comfort him, but he refuses to be comforted. And he says, no, I'm going to continue to mourn until the day I die. And join Joseph in the grave. So his father wept. And meanwhile, these slave traders, they take Joseph down to Egypt, and they sell him to a guy named Potiphar, and he was one of the officials in the Egyptian guard. Now we'll pick that story up next week, right? But here's the deal. We can't always control our own success, and we sure can't control the success of others. Sometimes, you know, God shines down on us and he says, you know what, I want to bless you. And something good happens. You get that job. You win the lottery. Whatever happens, I don't know what happens. Maybe you're just, you know, a good-looking critter. And people like you because of your shining personality. It happens, right? And sometimes you just need to say, thank you, God. It happens. But, you know, we don't have control over that, but we also don't have control over when it happens to somebody else. So what do we do? What do we do? Well, some people flaunt all their success and all their beauty and all their prowess, right? Understand that if you do that, there may be a backlash of response from the others, those who aren't the favorites, right? So how do we respond? Even if we do have the success, we are the favorite or we're not. How do we respond? Well, you've probably heard the phrase before, without vision, people perish, right? Let me tell you what that verse says in the original language. Because that's actually the King James. The more accurate translation says this: When people do not accept divine guidance, they run wild. Interesting. But it goes on, it says, but whoever obeys the law is joyful. Remember Jesus, we talked about this before. Jesus said, if you take all the laws, all the commandments that God has ever given anybody in the history of the world, you can boil it down to 2 commands. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, body, and strength, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. In other words, how you want to be loved. So, we love God and we say, God, thank you for this blessing. Thank you for this body. Thank you for the intelligence that you've given me. Thank you for the blessings that I've received. But God, I love you so much. I want to love other people the way I want to be loved. And that is, I want to be recognized. I want to be encouraged. I want to be forgiven. I want to have grace poured out on me. Right? I want to be encouraged. I want all that stuff. So treat other people the same way. Now you can see how this applies. This covers this idea. Somebody comes in, they're the favorite. Well, how do you treat them? Well, thank God that they're favored. You know, give God the blessing for what they've succeeded at, or what they've done, or how they've been recognized. But then, what? Treat that person with love and honor and respect like you would like to be treated in return. You see, if we treated one another that way, the world would be such a different place. But what does it look like today? A lot of competition, a lot of ego, a lot of positioning going on. Oh, I'm better than you are. Our country's better than your country. We want your stuff. You know, how come you got all the good stuff and we don't? We're going to go to war over it. Boy, but if they would what? If they would accept divine guidance, love God, if everyone would just love God and love each other, that's the vision that God really wants you to have. A vision to love Him and a vision to love other people. If you get that vision, that's going to take care of a lot of issues, a lot of problems. And I ran across this sign this last week. I thought this is so cool. It kind of explains it all. The only thing worse than being blind is having sight and no vision. Right? God has given you everything that you need to see. It's right there in the Bible. And Jesus, he comes and He says, listen, if you have eyes to see, open them up. Get the vision. God is the one who created you. God loves you. Love Him back and love other people. You see, how different this story could have been if all the brothers would have loved each other. Right? I mean, regardless of who Dad likes or not, if they would say, doesn't matter, I'm going to choose to love. Instead of get angry, instead of be hateful, instead of, not saying any kind word, I'm going to choose to love. And that's how God wants us to operate as people, right? No matter what happens, good or bad, let's love each other the way God calls us to love. And then when someone has a vision, someone has this idea, let's be open to it. Let's not immediately shut them down. Let's say, wow, God has blessed them with a vision. Let's listen to this and see where it takes us. And as we cooperate and we love each other, I think we'll see some good things happen. The end of that verse says, whoever obeys the law experiences joy. So as we love each other, that's when we can have the joy that God intends for us. All right? Cool. Let's pray. God, thank you that you give us a story. It's kind of a tragic one. People weren't listening to your vision for their life, to love you and love each other. God, help us not to be caught in being boastful or arrogant or proud. We all like to be recognized, but let's not put ourselves out there. Let's just be thankful for the blessings that we do have, and let's bless others. Let's treat each other the way that we want to be treated, with love and respect and kindness and honor. So God, help us do that this week in Jesus' name. Amen.